Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Woven Art podcast. My guest today is Dr. Jacob Nordangård, a researcher, author, and musician, the frontman of the Swedish heavy metal band Wardenclyffe. With a PhD in technology and social change, he specializes in analyzing elite influence over climate policy, digital governance, and technocratic agendas. And he is the author of 6 books on this topic. He also heads a Paroa Media Production. So thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Perfect. So in your research, how far back do you go? Who are the main figures or movements that you recognize as responsible for driving this global governance agenda?
Uh, well, I go back quite long in history, and my most recent book, Temple of Solomon, goes back into and back to Dr. John Dee of who was the advisor to Elizabeth I, and so I have. I have gone very, very long back in history, but the main part that I'm doing in my other books is about the 20th century history, and that concerns a lot about those who inherited the English system and developed the British Empire. And those people in what was called the Round Table Group.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of what I've seen with the development of the agenda with these supranational institutions that it originates from, for example, Cecil Rhodes and his financial backers, very powerful people. Yeah.
So you're talking mostly about the City of London and Lord Milner and those
Yeah,
round
exact.
tables.
The Round Table Group with City of London and the Royal Institute of International Affairs in London. That is their front group, and also the sister organization in United States, the Council on Foreign Relations. And all the other organizations that is a part of this net with, for example, the Bilderberg Group formed in 1954 and the Trilateral Commission in 1973. So it all goes back. You can trace it back to the will of Cecil Rhodes, and of course it goes way back longer as well. It's an old agenda.
I wonder if you were able to recognize or articulate the underlying philosophy of those groups. What unites them? Because obviously we are not talking here about bloodlines. We are talking about different people at different times, but yet something unites and connects them. Of course, their eagerness to control us. But can you speak about the philosophy itself if you recognize it?
Well, if you go back to Cecil Rhodes and what he did in South Africa, I mean, it's about this is business, and this is colonialism. It's based on controlling the resources of the world. That is what unites these people. They are the business elites of the world. And they have wanted to secure the resource base, control the resources. And that's not just Cecil Rhodes. In his case, it was about the diamonds and gold. And when, as I have written a book about the Rockefellers, the oil business,
Yeah.
and all these kind of natural resources, but also human resources is a huge thing. It's always been a part of this agenda, and very, very close connected to eugenics as well, to control humanity and control our development, evolution. And so we have on one side the evolution of a global governance structure in order to manage the resources of the world, and that's both the humans and the diamonds and the oil and all these things, and but also trade, of course, is very important. They have been very, very influential in the globalization of the world, with world trade. And for example, we have the World Trade Center in New York, that with the 9/11 thing, it was actually these towers were called David and Nelson, after David and Nelson Rockefeller. Very important characters in carrying out this agenda. So it's a tight little group that's into global business and creating monopolies as well. They have their arguments within the group, but they also they have a common belief in the system, and also be able to control their share of it, and maybe in the end also, I mean, it's competition within the group, so they can stab each other in the back as well. So
it's also somewhat of a dialectic, right? Because it's like two groups in perpetuated conflict, but eventually they are leading us to the same goals.
Yes, that's the modus operandi, working with these thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. So what I followed with these groups is that they more or less create the first they have a kind of the thesis that and then it comes a kind of reaction to what we achieve. Example with economic globalization and neoliberalism that came in especially in the 70s and the 80s. It came a reaction that was the green movement, and movements were talking about global justice and so on, and but these groups as well was funded by the side of, as I have been looking into the Rockefeller foundations, and we have of course Soros, and we have a Ford Foundation, and all these philanthropists working with this. So they are feeding money to the opposition against their global operations. And in that way they can steer it in the direction they want. And what happened after the years with the neoliberalism is that we saw a fusion of these two narratives, with especially through the World Economic Forum, talking a lot about justice and diversity and all these things that this alternative leftish movement had been working with for a long time, and now suddenly the business elite adapted this and made it their own. But it was essentially, and in that way they also could suddenly they had the left people with them, and the left people there were now. And the fusion is called alter globalization. you take care of the planet.
Yes.
Instead of just squeeze out everything, every resource out of it. But in the end, we know it's qualified bullshit. It's a way to govern people, and then we had the fusion of United Nations ideas and the World Economic Forum business community and this humanitarian side of it with the partnership in 2019 with between these and working together to solve the problems with the world and especially implementing the Sustainable Development Agenda, Agenda 2030 and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes. So basically, they are creating problems, and they are trying to illustrate to us that basically human beings are a threat to the climate, to this earth, and eventually those different narratives are serving them as like a multi-layered attack on every aspect of our life, whether it be cultural, political, economical, and so on. So if like what would be the main narrative that we should pay attention to that they are using to eventually lead us to this global governance?
Well, do you think what they are doing right at the moment, or what they have historically been?
Like if you can put the focus mainly on what they did in the 20th century leading to the 21st century, I suppose that they already pushed the climate nonsense already at the 40s, 50s, and
yes. So what I've been following is the climate agenda. In my Rockefeller book, but also we have one important thing in the 20th century. It was the threat of the atomic bomb. So that's and the first it was war. The First World War. It was World War, and that was a reason that we had to unite to contain the threat of war. And when we had the Second World War, and after that we had a new threat, and that was the atomic bomb. And that defined everything with the Cold War until 1991, 89, 91, when the Soviet Union collapsed. So that was the main narrative first, and but as early as you mentioned in the 40s and 50s, they were starting to discuss climate change, and that came out of the American military and American military research and the Rockefeller philanthropies. They were heavily involved in this, and also it was kind of the same people that had been involved in the Manhattan Project developing the atomic bomb that were involved with research about the climate impact of humans and the release of carbon dioxide. So that's one aspect of it. That's the climate, and also during the 50s and 60s, it was a lot of talk about overpopulation. A lot of especially United States was had Paul Ehrlich, for example, with a population bomb, and we also had a couple of people in Sweden that were very, very influential in setting up a population scare, and later we had terrorism, of course, beginning in the 70s with everything that happened. Concerning Israel as well, in Munich, and Olympic Games, and we had some things happening in Sweden as well in the 70s. And then we had, of course, the Muslim world and Islamism coming with 9/11.
So you always need an enemy at the gate, and preferable if it's hidden, like
Yes.
a virus perhaps, or climate change, or something that will put fear that will eventually lead them to double down and increase their surveillance. And
Yes, and often a very invisible enemy.
yes,
I mean, we had with it's like the atomic bomb. I mean, nuclear radiation. You can see it. You don't know it's there.
I must
a
tell
virus, it's invisible, and carbon dioxide is invisible. It's and sometimes you need an expert to tell you that it's actually there, and that you should be frightened of it.
I found newspapers here in Israel in Hebrew that are saying and basically threatening us already in the year 1984 that Iran is just a few months away from having nuclear weapons. In 84, okay?
Yeah.
It's just around the corner. Be afraid.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And that's interesting. 1984 already.
Yes,
with
yes.
I mean
the threat.
With the regime in Iran wasn't old at that time. It was just a couple of years.
5 years, 79.
5 years.
Yes.
Exactly.
So they are still working on it, apparently. So who are the main actors that you can point out? Of course, the Rockefellers, and I would like for you to tell us a little about them. I understand, especially in the 70s, the 60s, they were very active, and I think that I read that now the new generation is less active, maybe just following through, but they are not the people who are actually engineering the agenda. Maybe you can speak about them, the Club of Rome, the Trilateral Commission, and connect the dots so that my audience will understand how they actually work and connect between them.
Yes, so I can talk about the Rockefellers in the beginning, because first we had with the roundtable groups. I mean, it was Britain dominated at first. With the Milner Group and so on. And after the Second World War, United States took over as the leading power in the world. And it was dominated by Wall Street and the business people in Wall Street and their organization, Council of Foreign Relations, that was a think tank that worked with a lot with White House and the government, and deciding who would be the Secretary of State and War and everything, more or less. And Council of Foreign Relations was, after the Second World War, became dominated by the Rockefeller interests. Before the war, it had been J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan is known also to be kind of the front of the Rothschild interests in the city of London. But Rockefellers took over in the 50s and especially 60s and 70s, as you said, was very, very influential and involved in setting policy in the United States, and especially through they were involved with our philanthropy called Rockefeller Brothers Fund in the 1950s, with setting up an agenda. They released a report called the Special Studies Project, and they had collected Nelson Rockefeller, that was one of the Rockefeller brothers, and that became an important player in the 50s and 60s, and eventually became the vice president of the United States in the 70s. He set up this brain trust with very smart people to decide on more or less how can we create this new world order. I mean, it's stated in this report. You can read our history has imposed on us to create this new world order. And that is to create this global system in the end, of course. And how can United States be a part of this and create this new order? So from the beginning, it's like United States is just an instrument. United States in the end will not be the main organ for this. It's they want to develop United Nations as the instrument for world control in the end. So they start with have this project, and Henry Kissinger is the director of this. So the Rockefeller brothers, they invite him because he's a young academic and very smart, and has the right capacity to do this. And they also start, Henry Kissinger works at Harvard University, and becomes influential in setting up a program inviting foreign leaders or people that will be leaders in the business community as well as in international organizations. And one of them is Klaus Schwab, that later will create the World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
But
if I may interject for a second, you said that they said that history was imposed on them. That sounds very Hegelian, as if there is like some kind of history that has to be advanced by specific people, and it seems to be like the role is theirs to actually advance it.
They have been given this task. It's imposed on them to do this. So it's a higher mission. It's like so it's not like it's the Rockefellers that have invented this from the beginning, because they are a part of the group. They are part of a group of people. They have been invited into this little club with people, and they have the most resources of them all after the Second World War, and they have their old oil empire, and they have their foundations. The Rockefeller Foundation was one of the first big foundations, together with Carnegie Foundation, that worked with essentially the same things and for the same ends. From the beginning of the 20th century. So they have everything they need. They have the money, they have the think tanks to influence policy, and also the five brothers, they are very dedicated and involved in politics and banking. And David Rockefeller is of course becomes the chairman of the Chase Manhattan Bank, that is the largest private bank in the world at that time. So very influential and important people. And Chase Manhattan is a part of this work, and especially their international advisory committee that's led by Henry Kissinger. And out of that, first the ideas from the Special Studies Project, and when we have the Chase Manhattan Advisory Group, out of that comes the Trilateral Commission in 1973. And before that, we see another, and the Trilateral Commission, they are very influential in the economics and economic globalization. First, they introduce a lot that has to do with the neoliberal crusade over the world. And a lot of people connected to the Trilateral Commission, they become the head of the World Bank. And so very involved in those things. And then we have this other side, trilateral neoliberal agenda at that time. I mean, they are, as Patrick Wood talked a lot about, they are into, in the end, create this technocracy. But at that time, that was the the goal to open up all the markets. And if you open up all the markets, you have to have a counter movement that you control, and that was through the Club of Rome. That was set up in 1968. First, they had a meeting in Rome, and later at the Bellagio Center in northern Italy. That was right. That is Rockefeller Foundation's own center, by the way. And Club of Rome were no, we didn't find the same type of people. It was more academic, and you had system theorists and global planners and people that were thinking more about how can we create a kind of a new management system to cope with the problems ahead. And but eventually these two powerful think tanks would kind of their agenda would fuse. And they were supported, the Club of Rome, from the beginning by people from this Chase Manhattan Advisory Committee. For example, Gianni Anelli, the head of Fiat in Italy, a personal friend of David Rockefeller. And we also had Max Kornstam. He was involved with the Bilderberg Group. That also connects to this, of course, because even before this special studies project became formalized, they had set up the Bilderberg Group with powerful people in Europe and North America. And so we can see a very close connection between these groups. They are interconnected, and people are sitting on. We find people involved in the Trilateral Commission, that is in the Club of Rome, etc. And we all meet at Bilderberg. So kind of network that is tight and working for the same ideas in the end. And so Club of Rome also, they had the head of the organization was a guy called Aurelio Peccei. He was the second guy at Fiat, and also Olivetti, and he was the one that started the Air Italia, a company that started flying in commercially in Italy. So it was very interesting also with the Club of Rome, because they were talking about all these environmental threats, but actually behind
like the limits of growth and things like that. Right?
It was their report. So that's what they started with. Organization starts in 1968, when they start working with this report through MIT in United States, and release Limits to Growth. And the Limits to Growth report is a very, very important for the United Nations Conference on the Environment in 1972, set up in Stockholm, actually.
If I may, I would like for you to emphasize to my audience the connection of the Rockefeller to oil business, and how they are actually the people who are pushing the climate narrative. It doesn't make sense at first.
No, it doesn't. And that's the thing that surprised me when I was starting to look into this as a student at the university. The people that actually set up the oil business in the world, they also were very heavily involved in climate. So I just wanted to know why. But the Rockefeller started, or the John D. Rockefeller. He started in the 1870, the company Standard Oil.
Yeah.
And Standard Oil became the largest oil company in the world.
I think they had a 90% market share of the oil.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
least in the United States. And
Yes.
they had a competition from Royal Dutch and Shell, and also the Nobel brothers, the Swedish Nobel brothers, that were investing a lot of oil in Baku. So it was a couple of oil wars, or an oil war, they say, in the 1880s, that ended with the Rockefellers kind of fused with, or it was John D. Rockefeller said, if we can't beat them, we have to join together. So that's what they did, and that was that became the Royal Dutch Shell, and that's the Rothschild interests, City of London, and also the and the royalty in the Netherlands. That's the power dynamic. So already in the 1880s, they started to work together because they knew they couldn't beat them. So that's how it works. And out of Standard Oil, we have now, it came because John D. Rockefeller, he did a business in a way that wasn't really legal. so he tried to, this monopoly thing, for example. So the authorities, they wanted to stop him in the end, and they forced him in a court decision in I think it was in 1913 or something, and forced him to break up the big Standard Oil Trust and create these other companies. And they were all called Standard Oil in the beginning, like Standard Oil of New Jersey, Standard Oil of California, and so on. And later they renamed. So one of them now is ExxonMobil, and another one is Chevron. So and in the end, he got richer with this split up companies, because he still had the same amount of shares in each company.
So he's basically using the money to infiltrate and subvert even education and medicine, and taking control of banking. Why was it important for him to do that? And what are the results of this infiltration to those critical institutions, basically?
Yes, he had a very bad rumor at the time in the early 20th century, and they started the Rockefeller Foundation, and also before that, the General Education Board, and he funded also the University of Chicago and the Rockefeller University, or Rockefeller Institute of Medical Research, it was named at that time. And the idea was to act as good philanthropists, because that gives goodwill, and people will think these are nice people. They just don't take the money for themselves. They actually give back to society. But they always had this idea to this is actually an investment. We invest in the education system, and in that way we can control how people what they do, what they choose, for everything, and also it will become good for business. for example, also with research and the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research started early with, and also with this system, controlling this system, they can outcompete other ideas, and for example, especially in medicine, we had the Flexner report in the early 20th century with funding from Carnegie and Rockefeller that essentially banned alternative medicine from being practiced, and instead they had this prescription medicine with from out of the pharmaceutical creating the pharmaceutical industry, and with products derived from petroleum,
yes.
in a lot of ways. So it was a way to look good and influence people and education and politics, and in the end create monopolies on your own stuff. So it's a very clever thing that we did.
So
yeah.
So it's like basically politics behind the scenes, using NGOs, using all those foundations, and eventually they are just controlling every aspect of our life. Would you agree to that? Because the UN is part of that, the World Economic Forum, and the most disturbing thing is that they are using those invented narratives like certain pandemics or climate threat to basically mobilize and move us forward. Maybe you can break down, for example, if you want to use the example of the pandemic, how they use that and what were the consequences, because it seems like the first global technocratic move, like the big test. I'm not sure how to present it. Maybe you can talk to that.
Yes. The thing is, if you go back in history, the Rockefeller Foundation starts very early, and we find them involved with, and also Rockefeller Foundation together with Rockefeller University or Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. Already before, with the Spanish flu, for example, they were involved at that time, and because they have always been interested in the global problems. And so in the 20th century, we see a couple of these things happening. And they also, so Rockefeller Foundation is also very, very involved with WHO. And I was in 1948 when they set up this organization, so heavily involved with this from the WHO, and also the organization that were before WHO connected to League of Nations. So it was it's more or less a Rockefeller controlled and created organizations, and but they started to plan for and create scenarios for and eventually of a big pandemic, and this was done. I mean, they had these things during the 90s, and then especially in the early 21st century. They had identified potential scenarios, and also together with the World Economic Forum, because in the, I think it was in 2004, a report came out of World Economic Forum, their first global crisis report.
Mm-hmm.
And this report talked about the eventually of a big pandemic, and said we need to prepare for this. It could happen. We need to start to prepare for it.
And
So
together, always together by unelected politicians, right?
yes, and I mean, it wasn't even politicians involved at this time. It was people involved in the programs of the World Economic Forum and Rockefeller Foundation. And we also had a new foundation that became huge at that time. That was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yeah.
So they started building up these scenarios for the future, and also Rockefeller Foundation, they had funded a scenario project called the Great Transition already in the 90s. And in this scenario analysis, they had a couple of paths to the future, and they also had decided a preferred destination that they wanted to achieve, and that was more or less a world authority, world government, if you like. And that's stated in that report. This is the utopia that we are searching for, and they said in I think it was in '98 that the paths to this is through a couple of crises, and one of them could be a severe pandemic. So that is in the report. This report is released in 2002, and in 2004, World Economic Forum picks this up. It also they have a panel, high-level panel, I think, connected to United Nations that start to talk about this as well. So preparations is ongoing, and just a few years later, we have the first test, and that's we have a bird flu scare coming up, and after that we have a swine flu. That was many here in Sweden. They bought a lot of vaccine, and a lot of people lined up to take this. So that was it was a test run.
Yes.
To check how they should continue with this, and also how obedient is people with taking the orders and taking the shots. So they made and afterwards swine flu was over. They started to go into how did it work out? How can we do it better next time? Evaluating it, and then they had a new scenario analysis by the Rockefeller Foundation, and that came in 2010 with scenarios for future technology and development. And that's in that report we find a very close description of what actually happened in 2020 with the virus spreading from China, and also this report also talked about how can we have all these technologies. They are mature, but the ordinary people don't really accept it. We don't have a market for it, and so we need something. And so that was one of the scenarios to quickly roll out this technocratic agenda and technologies. And also, if you read this report, you find also that it talks about a Rand Corporation report that discusses the new technologies and says that everything is ready. We have been ready for a couple of years. We can implement it, but we need a reason to do it, more or less. So that's what happened. And also we had the event 201 in 2019 with where the preparations, everything was ready. It was like a military operation in the end, and also but they had of course, as it is with this kind of when you're supposed to implement new policies of the world, you are ready, you have everything prepared. That's how you win all the time. So and I've been studying politics at the European Union, and that's what I found out when I was doing that. It was everything was very, very well prepared, years in advance, before they had a kind of a trigger coming up with and people demanding something to be done, and yeah.
Do you think that the Rockefellers and all those other people were also members in the original technocratic movement in the 30s, the one that developed in Columbia University? Are they the same people, or those are different groups that eventually just joined forces later, like in the Trilateral Commission?
I think the technocratic movement was a testing ground. They tested the ideas. They knew that they couldn't really do it at that time, but they were studying what are these movements doing, and also the ideas. I mean, they have been funding and the technocratic movement. They were kind of born in the cellar basement to the Columbia University,
together with IBM, right?
Yeah, with IBM, yeah. So, and as I have been documenting with especially the Rockefellers and various universities, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and they study things, and then they take the best part of it, and okay, this can be useful for us. But for example, one of the people involved in the technocratic movement was Hubbard.
King Hubbard, right? Yeah.
That was originator of the peak oil theory, and that's how I came in contact with him and the technocracy movement for the first time, because I was very interested in the peak oil theory. In the
please elaborate on this subject of the peak oil, because I still hear people who are speaking about the dangers of peak oil. And
yes. Yeah, I just wanted to end with saying that MK Hubbard, technocrat, peak oil theorist, ended up in the Club of Rome. So there you can see how the connection between this, and you find these people with technocratic mindset. That's the global planners. That's part of the Club of Rome. Very system theorists. They think in that way, everything with efficiency. Yes, MK Hubbard. What was the question with peak oil?
If you can explain the lie about peak oil, because obviously it's all connected to a problem with resources and energy and explosion of the population, and that there is not enough basically oil to support all of that. So
yes, it was, and this started very early on. But at first, oil companies started talking about this. We will run out, and that was a way to make it more expensive. You have to make it scarce. It's like the diamonds and everything. In that way, you can sell it with more profit.
Artificially scarce.
Yeah. Yes. So it was very, very cheap oil in the beginning. But MK Hubbard, he came up in the 50s with this theory, and he started to model this with he took all the oil supplies in the United States and how much reserves do we have. He put it in a diagram, and he calculated, and he came up with a bell curve that eventually we will come to a tipping point with the oil, and we will not be able to pump up as much as we need to
or that the cost of production will be even more higher.
And the energy return on energy invested. I mean, it will cost a lot of money to bring that oil up from the ground. And he said that this will happen in United States in 1970.
Yeah.
And And it seemed like his prophecy was right in 1970, because after that the oil started to get lower and lower for each year. But he also made a calculation for the whole world, and I think at that time he said that it would be a peak in the 90s, and that was eventually moved into the future. And so it was and that was a very, very important part of the Stockholm Conference on the environment in 1972. It was all about resource and population, and then the limits to growth report. So it came very handy in with Harvey's projections of the future. What was okay? This is bad. We have to do something. But the thing is, if you go look into history now with oil production, you can see that he was actually wrong with the oil in United States, because they got better production techniques, and they managed to extract more oil. So now the production is higher than it was in 1970 in United States. So the bell curve wasn't right.
Yeah.
But it was more or less a political reason for this. And also we had the Yom Kippur War, as you know, in Israel, with that, and that crashed the oil market in 1970s, and became a big crisis after that, economic crisis and everything, and we started to question the way we had been driving our cars and everything, and the whole green movement came out of that. So it was needed, and then they could say, oh, the oil will run out, and we know Hubbard, he has said this. So and they used it throughout the 70s, but then in the 80s we had another war, and that was the Soviet army was in Afghanistan. And this is an interesting story that Zbigniew Brzezinski has
who was the head of the Trilateral Commission.
Yeah. And I mean, a very important player in this club, and said that I mean, in the Yom Kippur War, we had Henry Kissinger that was flying around to the Arab leaders and convincing them to higher prices and lower quotas and thing. And then in the 80s, we had Zbigniew Brzezinski that had been involved with supplying weapons to the Taliban of Afghanistan, and then they convinced Saudi Arabia and the Arab countries to increase the levels of oil, so that the oil price fell dramatically in the 80s. And it was a catastrophe for the Soviet economy, because the only money they got from that had any value was from the oil sales. That's how we got the dollars, and now they didn't get that many dollars anymore. So eventually their economy collapsed because of this. It's one of the reasons. There are of course other reasons as well. But so we can see how important oil has been all the time also, and but it's like we can just pull up the production, and we can lower production depending on what kind of policy we want to drive through.
Yeah. I see. What is the role of China in all of that, other than being the model for ultimate surveillance and social credits for citizens? Like, what is China? How China is like fitting into this global plan?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they were. You find the same players involved in China in the 70s, and we had David Rockefeller going to China, and I write about this in the Rockefeller book, how David Rockefeller brags about have been talking in Singapore, I think, about cooperation between these countries of the world, and it was like China listened, and after that they set up this meeting with Kissinger and Nixon, and David Rockefeller was there as well. And after that, the Chase Manhattan Bank came in, and actually the Bank of China opened an account in the Chase Manhattan Bank. So that opened up the door to China, and David Rockefeller was also involved in this with the business community to investments in China. So of course they were very, very. I mean, without them, we wouldn't have a China that it is today. No way. So I mean, it's built on the knowledge and money from West, as Soviet Union was as well, as Anthony Satton wrote about long ago, and a model country, of course, for the technocracy of the future, and a highly efficient system where you don't have people in the way. You just have it's basically expert rule, and also a great testing ground for this future system, because they know also that the Chinese people has always been obedient, and I mean, they are Confucianists, and they have this you obey authority. That's what you do. You did it with the emperor, and you have been doing it with the Communist Party, and you will do it with global technocracy as well.
Yes. So let's say fast forward into today. Many people are considering Trump some kind of savior, but what I see is that he's surrounded by many people who are coming from Silicon Valley. I would call them technocrats, modern technocrats, and I also see what he did in his previous administration with the warp speed operation and many other things. But now it seems like he's doubling down and he's making all of this agenda coming into fruition even more. So maybe you can speak about that and the people who are surrounding him, like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, and
yes. I wrote about this in my book, The Global Coup d'etat. I had a chapter about Donald Trump, because it was a lot of people talking about him as this savior figure, and being against globalism and being against everything stupid that came out of the World Economic Forum. But if you went into and analyzed the administration behind him, it was very obvious that he was just a puppet for these powers, and just playing the other side. And it's like when we have, as I explained before, we had the neoliberal side, and we had the alter side with the green movement and so on, that later became fused in an alter globalization and working together to save the planet. And then we had, with Trump, we had a new, because that was a synthesis, and the synthesis becomes the new thesis, and Donald Trump and the movement behind him became a new antithesis, like it always is. And behind him, of course, Peter Thiel, very involved in the first administration. He actually had, I think, 8 of his closest men involved in high places. And also a lot of other characters. I mean, we had Larry Fink from BlackRock as well. That is usually used as the worst example on a globalist in the world. And Donald Trump, he says, I love Larry. Donald Trump is like he loves everyone, but when he talks about them, but it's like he's a good investor, you know. He gives profit to me, and also he gave him the job to sort out some things at the Federal Reserve as well. And we also had a lot of other people very, very connected to Silicon Valley, of course, and also started. He had this head of science and technology office, Michael Kratsios, actually a young global leader and very fresh young global leader, and working with more or less. And he said it himself. We are continuing the agenda that the Obama administration drove with tech. So same agenda, different rhetoric. It was the first administration, and now the second time it's just high speed at high level. Now it's hyperdrive. With also the Stargate project and all these tech wizards coming on board, and also the ones that before were more in the left camp now join with Trump, because for a technocrat, what's the difference? It's just we can use the populist rhetoric. We can help you out with this, and as long as we have control over the technological system, so it's no difference for them in the end. I mean the Stargate, that's a huge thing with these AI centers, and that's a centerpiece of new technocracy. But it's like they are bringing it in from the right side. And with Curtis Jarvin and
he's the philosopher, the Dark Enlightenment.
Yes, talking about tech monarchy and Gov, what's it called, sovereign government technology, and all these things, with creating these techno kingdoms run by corporations.
Yes.
So that's the other extremes, and the other end we have what I've been mapping out a lot with United Nations agenda, and with the Pact for the Future, and also creating this kind of digital world brain, and together with World Economic Forum, and we can see that this will eventually be fused in the end. And as for example, we have Peter Thiel involved in Peter Thiel involved in the Bilderberg Group.
Yes.
And he's not just a guest, he's actually in the steering committee. And the Bilderberg Group, I mean, that's a part of this old round table group, if you say. So it's not like he's just there to be a counterweight to these people. He is actually involved in setting agendas, and together with Alexander Karp, also Palantir, is Thiel's company.
How do you make sense of his presidential executive to cancel the CBDC? So it seems like we are adding to some kind of cryptocurrencies, which are not going to be centralized, but eventually, even they are decentralized, they are still in the same hands, right?
Yeah. So I think it's a marketing trick. I mean, it will be basically the same kind of technology. But for the Trumpists, you sell it like for the crypto currency, and you can't do it in the United States. It's another thing in US. So you have to sell it that way, frame it, and frame it as decentralized and everything. But in the end,
it's still the same infrastructure. by the
same
same people.
infrastructure, and in the end, they take control of it.
I remember now that I saw a map in one of the books from the previous technocratic movement in the 30s. There was a book that shows Greenland and I think North America and maybe even Panama as part of this regional power. And now Trump is talking about Greenland. I think he's talking about Panama. And it seems like he's just bringing into fulfillment those ideas from the
Yeah.
30s.
Yes. Yeah. The technate of North America. Yes. So it is, and also I think we are have been written about this, but and I also wrote about Stephen Hines, the CEO of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, talking about the logic of the future, and that's the kind of the same idea, but it's like with creating these regional organizations modeled after the European Union, but has become a lot more technocratic, I would say. But it's a good example that Heinz talk about. But then we see Trump with his ideas of we will take over Greenland and Canada will be better as the 51st state and so on. So that is, and I assume that we can see in the end that they will start to discuss to creating this union in the end in North America. I mean, it has been discussed before, but it's like Trump has this aggressive take on it, and then they will come up with a more peaceful solution to this in the end, and forming, because that's also the agenda that Stephen Hines, Rockefeller Brothers Fund, talks about it, but also United Nations and the Pact for the Future. That is a lot about with creating these regional blocks, model of the EU, and the next in line is the African Union, and also the South East Asia. What's it called? Don't remember now.
It's interesting, by the way, that he was attacking Trudeau as the governor of Canada, and eventually now we got the new prime minister there.
Yeah.
And I think he's really one of them. From the little that I understood, he's actually active in all those organizations. He's a central banker. What's going on there?
Yes, yeah. I wrote about it. It's very interesting that we had Pierre Trudeau, a young global leader, with but not very popular anymore after everything what happened with the pandemic and so on. And I mean, Trudeau, arc globalist, with his connections to Klaus Schwab, but then. Mark Carney came in, and Mark Carney, I wrote about him in my Substack post that he actually climbed down from power because he had been the governor of Bank of Canada. He had been the first foreign governor of Bank of England. He had been at the World Economic Forum, trustee. He was at the Bank for International Settlements.
That's the one that belongs to Rothschild?
Central banks. That's a very, very powerful institution, very important for economic globalization. And he also was the chairman of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, or Chatham House in London. The main, one of the main front groups of a round table group from the beginning. So very, very connected. I've never seen such a well-connected prime minister ever, because it's like they usually are the puppets, but now he is an insider. He is very setting agendas. So it's very, very interesting to see him.
It's very worrying, because it seems like he came down from the Olympus to actually help to consolidate everything. And it seems like everything is being consolidated under Trump.
Yes, yes, it is. So I've been. That's my thesis, that we saw the first part of a great reset with the pandemic. What happened with an Operation Warp Speed, and Donald Trump was a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And the second part of the Great Reset, it's Donald Trump again, and with the tariffs, the trade war, and everything that's happening. That's the second part of it, and the same things is achieved with it,
Yes.
with the economy, and they, in the end, they also. United States as the greatest power, it will wane. It will lose its power, and in the end, they want to bring in the new system with an upgraded United Nations on top of it. So that's I think that's what we are witnessing now with the Trump administration. These years are and if you read, I mentioned before the Great Transition, with this scenario report written with money from Rockefeller Foundation, with a guy, Club of Rome member, writing this. And he wrote a follow-up report in 2000, was it 19 or 18, 19 or something, where he talked about the times ahead. And this was labeled like the age of chaos, these years between 23 and 28 or something like that. So that's the years when the old order breaks down, and when the world has to go into this new structure, and that's what has been prepared all the time, and that's why they also signed the Pact for the Future just before Donald Trump came into power. He was assigned for this role to do this, and but in the background we have preparations for the new system going on all the time, and this year also we can see with if you go into United Nations. I usually do that because a few people are looking into these things. They are only looking on what the Trump administration are doing, but never what's happening in these supranational structures like United Nations. So now they are starting to implementing this pact.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's insane, really insane.
Yeah.
What is the role of the BRICS in all of that? Because we have the G7, we have the BRICS, but then we have the G20. It seems like, again, they are the same players. So
yes, it is. And so the G7, it was set up already in the 70s. And first as G5 or G6, and then G8 for some time. Also, Russia was a part of this group, and a very important player in setting policy. I followed them during my PhD work about European Union. I could see that G7, a lot of the decisions came through working groups at the G8. I mean, it's not like they have a secretariat or anything. It's just a forum, but they are still were very, very important. And during the financial crisis in 2007-8, need came to upgrade another structure called the G20 that was created after the Asian financial crisis as a forum for the Secretary of Finance and so on, the ministers of finance to discuss and how they could counter this economic crisis. But in the 2008, they decided we have to bring in the leaders of government and head of states to because this is such a severe crisis. And then they started to put in other big global problems as well. Climate, for example, and pandemic and everything. It's just global problems that needs to be managed on a global level. And the G20 has become more and more important over the years. And I see them as it's Jacques Delors said one time with considering the European Union that this was a laboratory for world government. We are the testing ground here, and then we will do it on a global level. And it's like G20 is a structure, but it's an embryo for a kind of world government with the biggest power blocks discussing world problems. And also they have an agenda that they are working with together. It's each year we have a president country, and this year it is South Africa. But they work with the previous president country and the coming president country. So this year it's South Africa, and the big meeting is in South Africa. And the last year it was in Brazil. And then the next year it will be in United States. So United States works with South Africa and Brazil on the G20 agenda. And that's interesting because, it's Trump next year. And also South Africa and Brazil is BRICS countries. So what I view this is like G7 now. This is the it's like a pre-meeting for the G20. So that's the interests of the G7 countries. So they discuss and talk and prepare things, and the BRICS are doing the same, more or less. That's the emerging economies. So they have their organizations. Then they have the G20, where they all collaborate together. So it's a kind of it's a new structure, and also the idea to fuse together nations into larger groupings.
How do you think they are going to convince the population to move from what they perceive as democracy to this expertise, scientific expertise, which has nothing to do with democracy and the vote of the people? How do you think it will come about? Because those experts are unvoted.
Yes. Yes, they are like Elon Musk now, coming in from nowhere and just coming in with Doge and just kick people out of
for efficiency, right? And then the introduction of AI governance.
Yes, and that's how they are doing it, because we have had this with the left. It came a lot of demands on we have to have democracy, and we have to have diversity, we have to have all these minority groups have to be included, and so on and so on. And but it has got out of hand. It has gotten so extreme with this. So a lot of people are fed up with this. It doesn't work that way good anymore, and it's not the right people at the right place. So in the end, they can just get as Elon Musk, and that's what we have been doing. Get all this woke stuff. Get rid of it.
Yes,
we want
the reaction. On the way to the synthesis.
People will just say, "Oh, finally, we are so tired of this. We are tired of people that are just at this getting this position just because of their color of skin, not for what they are good at it anymore. So that's what I think is happening. They will get rid of the woke left agenda, and their call for justice. There's no need for we will have justice if we have a technocratic system. It will be not political, it's just efficient. So they will try to do it through people will demand it, rather than they will just do it against people's will.
Yes. So how does it look when they finally apply all of those tools that they have with the digital ID systems and regulation and conditioning of the population? How do you see all of that in actuality in our day-to-day life?
Yes, I mean, I live in a country, Sweden, that has come
now, right?
far in this agenda. So, and it has, I mean, it's a gradual process.
Yes.
And they are doing it through technological development. They can also always say, but it's, you can't change this. I mean, it's development. And also, we have had all of these crises in Sweden. We have had a lot of problems with migrants. We had 2 million refugees coming into Sweden since the millennium shift. I mean, we are 10.5 million people in Sweden, so it's a huge increase in people. And it started pop up problems, especially after 2015, with criminality. And I mean, people don't adjusting to the society, and a lot of things happening that made us more prone to accept more surveillance. And so we have CCTV towers on the street outside my home. We didn't have that before. Nothing. I mean, I grew up in a very, very peaceful country. I mean, you didn't have to lock the door. It was so it has been changed society totally with and it's not just that, and also that's one part of it. We're bringing it in with protect us against criminal gangs and so on. And then we have in Sweden very much caring about environment. So that's they're bringing in these kind of technologies to protect the climate for the leftish audience. And also
in the US, it's the opposite. Trump is saying, make more energy now. It's like the other opposite that will feed the population of the Trumpies, right?
Yes, and at the same time, we create a problem because when the left can say, oh, they are creating this big, huge problem with the energy, and now we have to control it more when we have power next time. So these both sides, they support each other. One side create a problem, the other come up with a solution, and then they just change. But another thing I would say with this technocratic system of control, it's already in Sweden we have a kind of a digital ID already with the bank identification system. And that's run by the banks, private banks in Sweden. And in order for me to check my banking account, I have to have this digital identification. But it's also connected to authorities like taxation and also a lot of other organizations also, that's not state owned. They use this system. So in Sweden, it's more or less impossible if you don't have a smartphone and this bank ID. And it was not long ago, and they also introduced this as a regular identification, so it's connected to this. So you can just have it in the phone, and this has been a gradual process. First, it's just convenient, and then in the end, it's just mandatory. You have to have it. It's you can't have an ordinary life without it, and you can't access things. Of course, we still can. The next thing is you can't go into a shop or anything without it. I mean, we tested this during the pandemic, but so we have these tendencies that people don't really think about, and it's like if you go back in history, what has happened since 9/11, for example, and the warnings that came from people at that time that were labeled as conspiracy theories. It's like I think some of them were really close to what has really happened, because it's like we get used to these things. We are used to the kind of technological control nowadays.
Yes.
And now we warn about, we're going to do these things in the future, but they have already achieved a lot of these things already, and things that we wouldn't accept in the 90s.
Now we are
No way.
voluntarily joining and using all of that.
Yeah. And I can assume in Israel that it's a lot of security and a lot of
it's intensifying all the time for the safety and security of the people, right?
I mean, you are such a state with you have been there, had that since the founding of Israel already. So you must be very, very conditioned to accept this kind of control.
It's for our best. It's for our safety.
Exactly.
What do you see is happening with the AI? This is very alarming. The speed of which it's like taking control of our society and conditioning the way we even communicate with each other. I see now people are not even bothering themselves to articulate their own messages. They just say something to AI, and the AI will speak for them, think for them, and eventually even condition their patterns of behavior and thinking. So can you speak about that, please?
Yes, it's
the AI society, right?
The AI society. And I come to think about a book by Arthur C. Clarke called Childhood's End.
What is the name again?
Childhood's End. And I think pick it up. It's a very, very interesting book that talked about the future in the 50s. And it's like what he wrote about is about to happen with we are giving up our creativity. We are giving up our thinking abilities, everything. And to become just like robots taking orders, and for the end with the AI society, of course, and that's what they want to achieve also with the Pact for the Future in the end, because we want to fuse this with the global goals and so on, so that they create a humanity that are always doing the right thing and not think. It's like they want to liberate us from thinking. But if you think, you can get depressed or so on, get mental issues because of the thing. It's better just to have everything served all the time,
and you just keep entertained.
Yes, that's the society, but it's a very very hollow society. Very it's nothing, no depth in it at all, and dangerous for us humans. Yes, so it's that is a scary perspective, but I at the same time I think we are not beaten yet, and because it's like trying to create this perfect system. Because I mean, if you, as I said before, with my book, I go in my latest book, I go into the occult and into alchemy and all these ideas. That is about perfection. Create the perfect human, and also it's like going back to Eden. Because when Adam and Eve was and with the snake and the apple and
The original sin, yeah.
the original sin, it's like they want to us to go back to Eden again, not to think.
James Lindsay is talking about this subject a lot. His research is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. But it doesn't work like that. That's what I think. And perfection doesn't exist because nature isn't. It's a lot of cracks everywhere, and you can't. And it's impossible to make. I mean, they have these ideas of controlling the world by controlling what will happen, and controlling because if they have the data about everyone on Earth, they will know the trends, and they can prevent bad things from happen. But it's not possible. It's just I think it's just an illusion, and
unless of course you completely change the identity of men, or you remove their essence, for example, to be rational, to do what is so humane, even by the way we interact. So they are changing everything and preparing us for this transhumanism with AI governance.
And essentially make us useless. We create a system where we're not needed anymore,
and to perpetuate it with UBI and things like that, I suppose, right?
Yeah. And but it's when you think about it, why would they want so many people to survive when they are very scared of resources? It's like, why? No use of people. It's better that people just die off.
Yeah,
they don't need that many, and that's the story in Childhood's End. I just want people to pick up that book and read it. I won't say I don't think I will say anything about what it's really about, but it's a good thing to read to understand the direction.
Thank you for the recommendation. As a musician, how do you see culture changing, even music, beauty, art? Is that another way for them to weaponize the kind of entertainment we have to change our identity?
Yes, I mean, we have been using music for a very, very long time. I mean, it's started with Greece or even before that. So the culture has been important as a way of transforming people and steering people in certain directions. So it's nothing new. And I have been kind of shocked when I realized a lot that happened during the 60s and 70s.
The Woodstock and the CIA.
But we have this influences by powerful, and it's like you can never succeed if you're not a part of join the club or you're useful in some way or another. And I mean, I've been come in contact with a lot of people that has been involved in the music industry, and just says it's awful. You just long for have a breakthrough and come and be a star, and when you are a star, it's not like it's fun all the time. because you have to become a part of a club, more or less.
Yes. Yeah.
But the thing is now still a lot of good music came out of CIA that actually is great music that we can listen to, and so
progressive rock and psychedelic rock from the 70s is amazing.
a lot of fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just so things can be created out of bad ends, but it still can be good in the end. And you just wow. I think it's much worse with and I know some people that I can't listen to the Doors anymore, I can't listen to these bands because of this, but I do. I think it's great music still, but the
I
worst
see you have
thing,
Deep Purple at the background. So
I have Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and Led Zeppelin in the background. Some great 70s rock. But the worst thing now is the AI revolution in music as well, because that destroys music. It's not even humans involved in the making of music, and that's what I think will happen with just AI generated music. Go out to shop and you hear this music in the background. It will just be AI generated. In that way, also they don't have to pay for the music, because who has done it? It's just AI. So that's a danger, and that it will just it's a threat against the diversity
and creativity. Yes. What is the role of the religious aspect of New Age theosophy? And it seems like while they create all of that, they also try to create some kind of a new world religion. Can you connect that to the other narratives?
Yes, as in this book,
Temple of Solomon, your latest book, right?
I write about this, and I write a lot about the Lucis trust and theosophy. And theosophy, you can find the roots in Rosicrucianism, and also connected to Freemasonry and all these mystery schools.
I think the grandfather of Madame Blavatsky was a Rosicrucian. And she was studying in his library, if I remember correctly. Yes,
exactly. I have it in the book as well. Yes. So and talked about this brotherhood, these masters of wisdom that were guiding humanity, and these ideas were later picked up by Alice Bailey.
Yes.
She was a member of a Theosophical Society in California, together with her husband Foster Bailey, a high-ranking Freemason. And but they were kind of kicked out of the society because they had their own ideas and agenda, and Alice Bailey wanted to be kind of a new Blavatsky and the new female leader of this, because she had her own ideas of the masters, or she claimed that she was contacted by the secretary of the Masters of Wisdom, the Tibetan.
They are the one dictating to her.
Joal Kuhl dictating to her telepathically 24 books about transformation of society, and then creating a new world order with right human relations. And as I write about in my book, it's very, if you read these books from the first one published by the Lucifer Publishing Company, located near Wall Street in New York.
But they also have a seat in the United Nations. They are responsible for publishing.
They are very close to United Nations, and they also have their office very close to at the UN Plaza.
Interestingly enough, if correct me if I'm wrong, the original name was Lucifer Trust, right?
Yeah, Lucifer Publishing Company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they changed to Lucis Trust.
Yeah.
So and the first book, you can read about the ideas and the masters. Who are the masters? And it's fascinating to see that they are very, very connected to the Anglo-Saxons. So this master of wisdom, he praises the Anglo-Saxons and their how they have it's a great future for America and England, and so it's very kind of imperialistic, and you find so I have seen this also the connections we have to they have been located at Wall Street. They are in London, very close to Westminster, and in Geneva, close to the former League of Nations, now the United Nations organizations in Geneva. Very, very close to power and very close to the Roundtable Group, because it's more or less what they are saying. And they also talk about hierarchical projects, that the great hierarchy, the masters of wisdom, they have been creating, kind of be influencing, and the United Nations, and also like the atomic bomb was kind of a great thing. So a lot of so you can follow it in especially one book called Externalization of a Hierarchy, when we talk about this, and also that it's like the Anglo-Saxons are the one that should lead this. They are the best, and that's exactly what the Roundtable said.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thesis, that they are it's like it's their spiritual department. And they have they have not that much in common no longer with the old Theosophical Society with Blavatsky. So this is another deal, and if you read the books, you don't feel that spiritual when you're reading them. It's more like more business oriented people had written this, so I don't and they also talk about this year 2025 in Externalization of a Hierarchy. This book came out in 1957 after Alice Bailey's death. But they talk about 2025 and says that that is the year when the stage of the Forerunner ends. And at this year, they will decide when the masters will start to externalize on the world stage. So that was, and for me, it was very, very interesting when Mark Carney suddenly climbed down from the BIS in Switzerland, and the banker's banker. So that's my take on it.
It's
anyway,
terrifying.
That they are. This is there, and they also want to bring in Christ, the Christ.
But Christ consciousness, it's a different kind of Christ. All those
but
New Age movements are pushing. What is that all about?
We talk about Christ consciousness, and we can talk about Barbara Mark Sabbath as well. So I mean, it's it's another thing. It's but they also say with Lucis Trust, they talk about the Christ also as a person coming physically.
It's Lord Maitreya, no?
Yeah, and Maitreya, and they use, it's like we have this invocation,
Yeah.
like a prayer. And they talk about, in the Western version, it's more like the Christ. But in the new version, they talk about the coming one. And but if you read their writings, it's like it could be in here, it could be Christ, and it's in the East, Maitreya, and in the Muslim world, Imam Mahdi, and so we just okay, whatever we can use to convince people of this. So this is a very, very interesting year because of that. But also the Christ consciousness, because that's another thing. I mean, it's a big thing in New Age, of course, and it's like, well, you become kind of enlightened.
We are all Christ, right?
We are all
part
Christ.
of God.
We are, yeah. So
it's Hermetica, basically.
What?
Hermetica.
Yeah.
The Hermetic religion. It's like we are all part of.
It's Hermetic. So, but in this version, it's also a little distorted, because if you go into what the Lucis Trust are supporting, and also Barbara Marx Hubbard, she was big in New Age, and she was also a member of the World Future Society. With futurists into the new technologies, emerging technologies, and brain-computer interfaces, and so the Christ consciousness will be done through technology and fusing together all people. That we already are with the internet, and we have this connection today. And we have another important role model in the New Age, that is Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, that talked about the noosphere. He was a Jesuit priest.
Jesuit,
and, yeah.
But that's already from the 50s, I think.
Yeah. His book came out in the 50s that talked about these things. It wasn't. He couldn't publish it first.
He combined evolution elements into
evolution with Christianity, but a very, very strange form of Christianity. But it was very appreciated by the Round Table people group that were talking about eugenics and controlling evolution of humanity. So it came together, and that's a perfect mix for them, because it's okay. We have God. We are just following God's divine plan for the world. We are helping God.
Yes.
And I mean that is also a part of more of a Freemasonic ideas, co-creators with God, and creating perfection. But it's very, very dangerous ideas. We also people playing God and trying to becoming God themselves. And
history is being imposed on some of them to become secular messianics.
Yes.
In your opinion, how can individuals and communities effectively push against this centralized control? What can we do?
I write. The thing is, what I write about in my book is that we have our enemy now. They are building an artificial system of control. We can use that kind of system that they are trying to use against us in the end, because in order to push us together in this system, they have to give us something. They have to give us a carrot, and that's how we can communicate with each other all over the world. So that's one thing. We are coming together. All the people that can still think can come together, and we can be combined as a force and starting to influencing other people. So that's a part of winning in the end. And have you seen this since the last? I mean, it started kind of, and was it 20 years ago now? And I had no connections to people, very few. So a lot of things has changed, and so they have to give us something that we can use against them in the end. And also, I talk about the natural intelligence. You could say the divine intelligence as well. But we have a kind of I usually say that you cannot be an avatar in a computer game and outsmart the one that has created this. So I think we in the fantastic world we live in, the natural order of things, that is just amazing with how it works with nature, seasons, weather, climate, and everything. It's just awesome. But we have it's a security mechanism in this system that activates people, and then if people start to look at this, for example, they might have this security system kicked in. Now we want to know things, so it connects us in a natural way as well, and this will start the ball rolling, and so it and start it will be too many people asking questions in the end.
Yeah.
So now they are trying to rush this control system, and if you're trying to rush it will never end well.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
Please tell my audience how they can find and support your work. Maybe if you have your books beside you, maybe you can show them, and even your music. How to find you?
Yes. You can find me on my webpage, jacobnordangård.se. I can see that you have it linked here. And at that webpage, you can find here's the Temple of Solomon book.
Yes, but it's a limited edition, right? Very few copies, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, the first edition is sold out. That was in 777 copies. That's the number of perfection. That's why I choose it. God's number as well. So that's this book I have published through my own publishing company. Can only be bought by me from me. And but I also have these books published by
the masterpiece about Rockefeller. Yes,
Rockefeller Controlling the Game. This is published. I published it first myself, but it's published now by Skyhorse in the United States, and it has worldwide distribution, so it's easy to access through Amazon. This kind of.
But they can buy directly from you as well.
Not this one, because I don't have that many copies of it left. But also. But you can find it on my webpage. And then also I have this, the Global Coup d'etat. That's the follow-up. Because this one, Rockefeller, it's the story. I mean, a lot of history from the 20th century about the age of globalization and how climate agenda and everything, environmentalism. But this is about the health agenda and what's happened during the pandemic, and all these
Very
scenario
important.
reports that how we prepared for it.
Yes.
So that's the books I have in English now, and then I also have another one, but I'm trying. It was out already in 2022 in Swedish, and I have translated. It's called The Digital World Brain, and it's about the United Nations agenda and this pact for the future, and the kind of system they want to bring in.
Yes.
And I hope to have it out this year. I said this the last 2 years, but I hope it will be ready. It's been a lot of work with the Temple of Solomon book as well, and also you can
You have your
find
account on Substack, of course.
my Substack. Yeah, you can find my latest work and everything what I'm discussing with the events now. A lot to do with Trump administration as well, and of course music.
Yes.
So this book have
Mhm.
this is a soundtrack that is actually, this book is special because it's each of the songs on this album with my band, the Wardenclyffe,
Mhm.
each song is a chapter in the book. So I have a song, for example, about John Dee, the magician, so called Mortlake, and I have a chapter about that. And then I have a chapter about Scott looking for the Green Fairy, and that tells the story about, for example, Alice Bailey, Madame Blavatsky, and so connected to agenda. But it's each chapter has a song.
It's
With
beautiful. I actually listened before the interview in Spotify, which,
yeah,
yeah, it was very good music. I
yeah,
enjoyed
great.
it.
Yeah, and of course, support my music. You can buy this, of course, but you can also, if you listen to Spotify, I will never get any money.
No, I know,
But you can
of
go
course.
to Bandcamp,
Mhm.
and so we have a page, and where people can actually support us and give a small amount
Of
for the
course.
album, and that's a nice thing to appreciate music, not
Of course.
because it's a very expensive hobby.
Mhm.
But actually, by combining it, I have
So
sold.
the book is the booklet of the music, basically.
Yes, yeah, I think it's the most exclusive booklet ever.
Mhm.
So
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah,
Jacob, I would like to thank you very much for your hard work and everything that you're doing, bringing forward all this very important information. And of course, I thank you very much for your time and kindness to join me today. Thank you
yeah,
very,
yeah,
very much.
yeah. I
And
appreciated this discussion very much.
thank you,
Very,
sir.
very happy to be invited.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So with your permission, I will end the recording and I will send you a copy later, a link.
Yes, great.
Okay. Thank you, sir.